The future. I think about the future a lot. Like, every day, multiple times a day. Not just because I'm an overthinker, but also because the future was something that was fun to daydream about. When I was a kid, like many kids typically do, I had a huge imagination, and I would love to think about all the possible ways my future would look like when I grew up. Author, lawyer, actress, musician, engineer, scientist, the future was limitless, and so was my mind. So who's to say I couldn't juggle 5 full-time jobs and 8 different hobbies all while having free time as well? When I began to grow older, however, my vision of the future narrowed a lot. Not just because I began finally following the news, but also because I was met with reality. This small voice that begins getting louder as you're primed on this idea that you can only do so much, and that your future has to fit within a box, fulfilling the progression of finishing your education, getting a job, and then working that job until you retire. This, alongside the looming fear that my future is distinctly out of my hands no matter how much I ponder on it, made the future seem scary as opposed to something to look forward to. I mean, how am I supposed to make plans for the future when in the past 6 years alone it seemed to be on the brink of ending multiple times? But thinking about it, even though the future is distinctly out of our hands, I do still find that we have some say in what happens to us, coming from up here and what you do right now. Think about everything I just said. It's a progression that happens to a lot of us, isn't it? And with hearing so much negativity constantly circulating online and in the news daily, it's obvious that you might feel helpless or uncertain about the future. But reflecting on the past 10 years, it's also true that a lot of us have gone through a lot of positive. Some of us might have graduated, chased our dreams, gotten a promotion at work, gotten married, or just found proof that life isn't so scary after all. And I find that one thing which people don't talk about enough is just how much agency we have about what happens to us. Every day you make choices which slowly build up to shape your life. And I'm not just talking about a lack of sleep causing you to feel groggy in the morning. I'm talking about meaningful habits, decisions, actions, which you make daily that influence the trajectory of your life. It's crucial to realize that so much of your future is built in the present, as in right now. Every person you talk to and every opportunity you seek is helping you work up to who you will be in the future. Now you may think, but Rita, what about the unpredictability of the future and the factors which will doom society forever? Well, I would say that you're right. There are things that are distinctly out of our control and things which may stump you in the future. But one thing which I want to make clear is that your future isn't supposed to be perfect. Many people close to me have gone through periods in history which were not exactly the most desirable to live through. One person in particular, who once resided in America, had to live through the aftermath of 9/11. And through facing constant discrimination, it led him to need to shut down the business which he had in America and flee to Canada with virtually nothing. He managed, however, to rebuild what he had and remains one of the most resilient people who I know today. All this to say, however, is that your future isn't about what you can or can't control, but what you do with the circumstances you're given. You see, you will face barriers in the future. It's inevitable. But ultimately, what you do will always rise above what happens to you. I also know that you might face some uncertainty about what path is right for you. It's normal, especially my age, but really any age, to feel helpless or uncertain about the future. But how do we exactly become this great and motivated person? Well, I would look at you and say, optimism! But that's probably not what you wanted to hear. And I get it, we hear so much about just being positive and maintaining a growth mindset that it sounds unrealistic. But believing in your future is truly the key to unlocking it. Let me take you back to the example I gave in the beginning. Do you remember when you were a kid? Like the age when adults would come up to you and ask, what do you want to be in the future? And remember how eagerly you'd reply to them, even though you knew absolutely nothing that went into being an astronaut? That's the kind of optimism I want you to have about the future. Now, obviously this would have to be balanced with some realism, but nowadays I find that we focus so heavily on realism that we become almost nihilistic. Overthinking is natural, but this doesn't mean giving up. I'm a believer in that the only moment when your future is truly out of your control is when you give up. And I also know that you might face some anxiety about what path is right for you. It's normal, especially in my age, but really any age, to feel directionless. And I find that it's in these moments that we need optimism the most to allow us to just keep going. To illustrate this point for you all, I want to share a story from when I was younger. When I was younger, I hated reading. Or rather, I hated anything that an adult or person of authority told me to do. I mean, withdrawing, YouTube, staring at the wall, why would I have to listen to you when you told me to read or do my homework? Well, lo and behold, when my family moved to Canada some years ago, I struggled pretty badly to open up or make new friends, and even face some bullying, all while navigating a place that seemed foreign to me. And with nowhere else to turn to during recess or work periods, the bookshelf became a bit of an escape for me. I managed to find books that actually intrigued me and seemed to be more than just words on a page. Funnily enough, a lot of these books which I came across were unintentionally depressing, but that's besides the point. Aside from this experience making me more headstrong, this love of reading followed me as I grew up, and opened up another world to help me express my creativity. And it's also likely one of the reasons why I'm motivated to be on stage speaking in front of you right now. Now, while this experience wasn't exactly the most joyous, and even though I still protested when an adult gave me a book to read that wasn't my personal pick, I managed to take something from it that I'm still grateful for today. In this sense, being optimistic also means being adaptable. If the worst case scenario were to happen, if we were to enter World War III or if AI does take over, who's to say we wouldn't just survive and adapt like we did before? But how do we specifically become this optimistic person? Well, maybe it's time to think of a game plan. Firstly, I think when trying to make any sort of mindset shift, it's important to reflect. Think about your life 10 years ago. I was 6, but regardless, think about how scary the future must have felt. And look at where you are now. It isn't so bad, is it? Also, think about the challenges you overcame to get to this point in your life. And pat yourself on the back for them. Secondly, analyze the future like it's something to look forward to. Set goals for yourself if you haven't already, and think about how exciting it would be when you cross that milestone or have that experience. And in the case that that's a goal that's quite far down the line, think about actions you can take right now to bring you closer to that goal. Now, obviously, you can't expect everything you want to happen within a minute time frame. But just because something doesn't happen exactly the way you want it to within the time frame you want it to, doesn't mean that you can't still be grateful for where you are and continue working towards it. I mean, you put the effort in to get here, didn't you? Finally, if you do have a negative thought or get weighed down by uncertainty, think about why you feel that way in the moment. Is it realistic? Is this a future that you really believe will happen to you or others around you? What if it didn't? And what if the future looked much better, in fact? Now, as much as I wanted this talk to seem like if you just plan hard enough, everything in the future will work out to your advantage, that just isn't true. Because in reality, no matter how much planning we put into the future, there are still things that may stump us and things that might not work out the exact way we wanted them to. Like, say you had to go to a new place or a new event and you just had to be on time for it. So you get up extra early, you check all the possible routes and take the one which will take the shortest amount of time, and leave home another 10 minutes early. Well, just as you're pulling out of the driveway, you notice that there's construction up ahead, and all the roads which are supposed to take you to your destination on time are now closed. I, coincidentally, had something just like this happen to me on a way to a 2-hour class I was taking downtown. It was marathon day, so obviously I knew that it would take a bit longer to get there, but the GPS of the car of the Uber I got into was super outdated, and only about an hour and 30 minutes later did I get to my class after we rerouted about 50 times. All this to say that life sometimes takes you in unexpected directions, and all the control you thought you had over a situation is now gone. And it's important to realize that in situations like these, you do still have a choice in how you react. You can choose to get down on your hands and knees and blame life for all the ways that it's cursed you. Or you can try to take whatever positive out of the situation and just keep going. So, where do I foresee us in the next 10 years? Well, I hope that as a generation, we continue to strive for positivity, agency, and feel okay adapting and letting parts of our future be undecided. I also hope that a lot of this rhetoric surrounding the future becomes geared towards what we can do instead of what we can't. Now, where do I see myself in the next 10 years? Well, if I'm being honest, I have no idea. Okay, well, I have some idea. I know that I want to go to a good university and maybe study law, but outside of that, I have no idea where the future will take me. And I found that sometimes it's better not to overthink about the future, because thinking about what's waiting for you behind every single corner or every possibility of every single situation doesn't mean that you're more prepared and doesn't make this future seem less scary. But rather, it means that you trust yourself enough to say that whatever the future has in store for me, I can deal with it, good or bad. Now, before I go, I'd like to leave you with a quote from one of my favorite movies that sums up the point which I wanted to talk about today. And funnily enough, deals with the concept of time and the future. Back to the future. Your future is what you make of it. So make it a good one. Thank you.